Minutes of April 19.
Second section, it should be a review of the meeting minutes from April 5th, not the 19th.
April
Sorry.
5. Any motion to approve? Motion made, seconded. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes to accept the minutes of the meeting of the 19th. The first communications.
Well, I have something.
Yes.
Communications. As you know, Craig and I met with Tom Mulder and Lloyd Crafty from the school committee with Bob Musham. And went over the budget, school budget, and where we both of our opinions, and came to an agreement. And we have an email that we would like to enter into the record.
Okay. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to do that?
It's communications.
On communications?
It's communications,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you want to read that in?
We'd be happy to.
Sure.
So this is from Tom. No, it's not that.
No.
It's bad news. I know.
It says, good morning, Craig and George. This is dated Monday, April 25th. I appreciate your willingness to initiate a conversation this past Thursday to help each of us better understand our budget perspectives. We are in agreement that the declining enrollment at William Mann School will eventually necessitate a reduction in staffing at the school, and significant consistent reductions will require this to be considered sooner than later. The school committee has appropriated $100,000 towards capital expenditures, and I more clearly understand the need for the district to enumerate what this money will be used for. To that end, I will be working with John McEnany and Bill Moore to put together a capital plan over the next 2 weeks. I will forward this as soon as it's complete. I have also taken steps to make sure that the district's unrestricted surplus is clearly quantified in the school narrative contained within the warrant. You know it says warrant, it's inside our budget report. Okay? John is inserting this immediately, and this additional language is forthcoming. Though it is not and may never be written in stone what constitutes an acceptable surplus for the school department, it is imperative that there needs to be an acknowledgement by the town and district of what the upper limit should be. Our current unrestricted surplus of $223,000, though earmarked, is still unrestricted. Hopefully represents to the budget committee an acceptable level for the fiscal year 2016-17. It is acknowledged that the budget committee would like the current and future school committees to consider applying any surplus monies to the recently acquired school bond and fiscally appropriate. I would suggest that the budget committee and school committee need to have discussions annually, shortly after March 1st, to analyze the surplus as it relates to the submitted operating budget. And so I hope that any determination made now will resonate with future budget and school committees. I sincerely appreciate your willingness to revisit your recommendation as it relates to our request. Let's keep the lines of communication open and continue to work together. Many thanks to all.
Thank you for ending that record. Thank you, Tom.
My pleasure.
And thank you, Craig and George, for
What
meeting
is-
with them.
I just want to make sure, can we discuss the schools? Or
Well, let's,
Communication.
yeah, under communication, sure.
Well, the consequence of that, is that we're going to fund the school budget to their request for this year. And I'm not sure what the exact number is, Tom, but
I have it.
you have it.
Yeah, the town
That
appropriation,
would be the town's contribution to the school.
Town contribution, same as last year, 6,141,006, I believe. I don't have the town contribution exactly, but I have the school. School's request was sort of 6,939,894. And I think if you take four 12 plus 10 is 422,888.
I just want to make sure that that's all.
I think it's 6,517,006.
correct.
All right.
You
Yes,
agree
great.
with that, Tom?
Agree?
Both towns agree.
Yes.
Would you keep the number a little louder, Tom?
The request by the school for the funding from the town is 6,939,894, and then it is the town's portion of that is 6,517,006.
Okay. And we do have the school down for a final review on the agenda. At that point, I think we will vote for that specific amount for the town contribution, in contrast to the prior vote that we had taken. Assuming that's the agreement.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay. Any other communications that anybody received? Then beach is the next item on the list. And Bill, are you the spokesperson for the beach?
I think the both of us are.
Okay,
This
good.
is Joe.
Yes.
Well,
And you had requested, I'm just trying to find the beach. 143,475, I believe.
I had two requests, one for
Yeah,
143,475,
and then,
12,000 for each parking lot.
and 12,000 for the parking lot, yeah.
Those numbers that you just stated, they don't seem to tie in with what I have here.
We're gonna talk about the budget
Okay.
after this. We're gonna go through the topics first, if that's okay with you guys.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Okay, good. Then we'll get to the budget itself. What I'd like to ask you, and I know you have new leadership, and I know you got caught, but and we didn't get together, and so I apologize to take up public time like this, but I gotta get some answers on a few of these items that are part of it. One of the things, number one, is I'd like to get you folks to think about revenue. In other words, you do, you have your formula for your expenses in good shape. You know how to run. You may want to align your formula into more of the town's conventional format, because we have to deal with two different formats. And it makes the job of balancing the books difficult for me anyway. But I really would like to think about, for example, we said, the minimum wage increased, and therefore this is our budget and we need more money for salaries. We would like you to think about focusing on revenue. How much revenue project going forward? How much revenue do you think? You've been doing fairly well. It goes along with 156, 170, 190. It's close to 200 this year. And so I would say, well, okay, what do you expect to do next year? What is your pricing structure? What are you going to charge? And build a model that says, if we do similar to what we did last year, or we can do this and tweak it a little bit here, or we think we're going to get more people in as a result of a new program or something you're doing. This is what the kind of revenue we think. You're asking for the expense, but give us a little carrot on the front end. What are you going to produce? Because at the end of the day, Little Comptonites all go free. It's the outside people that pay the difference, and that's how we end up with an operating surplus from the beach. And we'd like to be able to plan that better. That's
One thing that you have to realize is that the revenue that we take in is very contingent on weather.
Oh, yeah.
And weather on the weekends in particular. So it's very hard to predict. I mean, you can look at past years and carry it forward, but you could have one year that you just have a bunch of horrible weekends and the revenue is going to be lower. So it's very hard to predict exactly what you're going to get. It's not like, predicting what the town taxes are, because you've got all hard numbers that are coming in for revenue on that.
Well, when I did your salaries, I took that weather into factor. I just guessed, and when I talked to
Jimmy?
to Farrell,
Yeah.
Jimmy, the way he laid out, I did a model of your salaries, and I modeled it out at 100%, meaning everybody is on duty full-time every day. I knew how many more you have on weekends versus, so
During the week.
I modeled it at 100%, then I modeled it at 95. I said, okay, you're probably on average going to have 5 bad days. It could be, and
That's tough to figure, 5 days. I mean, we've had
Jim didn't think
Junes.
that was irrational. He
Yeah, I do.
specifically
I mean,
said that, if the weather looks bad, he sends people home right on the fly. They don't
Yes.
even come into work,
That's correct.
So I'm.
And we're lucky to have a situation that's as flexible as that.
That's great.
I mean, a lot of businesses, you can't do that. You get a bad day, the people are there, and that's it.
Okay.
So, but my point is, you can say, okay, last summer we had X bad days. Use that as the model for next year.
I could see 5 bad days a month, but I couldn't see it all that season. You could take 5 days out of June, in July and August, so there's 15 days.
I only took 5 days out of the whole year.
That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
He's gonna take 5.
You can't, we could have a June sometimes that we've had that it's rained for 2 weeks. So there's your 10 days, and then the next month, sure, it could be 30 days of great days. It's hard to predict, you know.
How many days do you have?
They have roughly 99 for
100 days?
100 days.
So 15 out of that is,
I'm not taking out, the model is set for 5 bad days, the whole season. So I'm paying you for roughly 95 business days in terms of salaries. The point is, even at 100% staffing, you don't come to your full budget for salaries.
and that
I
is,
can show that to you, and if, had we been able to have a conversation, I could show it to you. I sent it to Jim, he kind of looked at it, but he's very busy.
yes,
So, that's all I'm trying to say. Take a stab at your revenues.
okay.
Think about it. I'm not saying the way I do it is the right way, but
Look into it.
look into it and see what you did last year. And then try to say, well, if they're close to last year, it's gonna fall between this and this. And then you take the number of hours, what you pay your guys, and
Mhm.
you got a model that says, this is what it's gonna cost us salary-wise. Your salaries, well, we'll get to the budget and talk about that. I wanna talk a little bit about cash now. But I don't understand how it works, and so that's why some of these questions may be very basic, but you're gonna, if on a good year, you're gonna run $200,000 in cash through that operation, right? Because they'll complement, don't pay anything, it's all out of the company. Tell me how cash is taken in at the gate. What happens to the cash during the day, and what happens when you close?
It's usually at the end of the day, it's taken to the treasurer. And it's accounted for by either Jim or his second in command. That usually counts the money that day. And what you do is you count the tickets, and then you add it up with the cash. And then the whole thing, the tickets are put in the drawer, and the cash is given to the treasurer on the account that that person has made, either it's Jim or his second in command.
Okay, so is the second in command would be like the head guard, or
Yes,
the
yes,
senior guard is the
yes.
second in command?
that's correct.
So the two of them get together, look at the tickets.
That's
look at the
correct.
Cash.
Yep,
Now, how does it get to the treasurer's office on Sunday?
that it happens on, Jim usually does that on Monday morning. He usually takes it, and he accounts for it, and then it's brought in on Monday morning.
How about every day when the beach closes at 5 o'clock?
What's that?
What do you do with the money if the beach closes at 5?
It goes into that next day.
Oh, the next day.
So
where's-
it
where's-
can't go in unless we open up the door and put it in there.
Where's the cash go?
It goes to
overnight?
Jim.
So the beach manager takes the cash?
Yes, he does.
Whether it's $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 and takes it home?
That's correct.
Okay. That's really not a good idea.
You know what, we've known it for years, it's not a good idea. The other thing is he can do a direct deposit, whether it's Sunday, and we've done that before, only because it's nerve-wracking with that much cash on you. We can take that procedure and promise you that we do that, you know, in Sullivan Bank.
Don't they have, lock bags and a night deposit?
They do.
Why
They
don't you do that?
We'll have to ask Jim that, and I'd be more than happy to do that.
It's
do make-
it's just,
They do make overnight deposits in Santana, or however you pronounce it.
okay.
But
So that might be something we want to do.
okay, that's perfect.
Because,
It is a tough thing when you have that much cash too many hands on it is not a very good thing.
Right.
But it's the way it has been done. The only other way, is to have a picture taken every time you take cash, whether it's somebody at the gate. It's a tough thing, I know that.
so we now know how does the treasurer get involved if it's?
Well, we have to bring that deposit slip into her.
Oh, into her, okay.
Right.
Have you ever had any problems with lost cash?
Yes, we have.
And what happened?
It was discovered that somebody was clipping the money. And how we found out is because of the tickets. Giving out the tickets and keeping the money. It was prosecuted and the money's been paid back.
And that person doesn't, or those people don't work for us?
And now they're not at all.
Okay, fire permits.
Are the tickets pre-numbered?
Yes, they are. I should have brought some in too, but to show you how we proceed with that.
So there's a ticket roll for each type of sale.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So for example, is there a ticket for fire permits? A ticket for fire permits?
There's not a ticket, but when they get the permit, then it now is a paper trail.
So where did they get the permit? Did they get the permit?
They get the permit up at the, yeah, that's correct. Because he decides if they should have it or not.
And how many can you give out a day?
We only get 15. And that's 5 to the campers and 10 to whoever goes in and gets it, and that's the limit.
Okay, they're used at night.
That's correct.
Okay. Does the fire department go down there and check the permits, or how does that get regulated?
Well, you know what, I don't know that, but all I know it's documented up there, so they're aware of it, whether they go down there or not.
Jimmy does.
He does a lot of it, yeah.
Jimmy polices it down there because they would have a ring. If they don't have a ring and they just have a makeshift fire, he makes them put it out.
It's the way the sequence works is you get your permit from the fire department.
That's correct.
Then at the beach closing time, Jimmy comes and sets the rings. Each of the rings is numbered and the permits are numbered. So you have to have your permit with your ring.
That's
And then he checks them. And sometimes at night, even one of the police officers on duty will come by and check to make sure that people who have,
We would welcome more police activity
yeah.
on the beach, and we try to get that, and
Right.
We don't really have any control over that. But Jimmy does police that very actively, as far as if anybody, because it's dangerous, if somebody just has a fire without a ring, and then they leave things behind there and so forth.
So does he work?
He also puts them out at the same time. He goes down the road and grabs a bucket of water, and they're not out.
11 fires out by 11? Is that?
It's actually earlier than that, I think.
10 o'clock.
Seems too early to me when you're down
10
there
o'clock.
with a fire, you know?
Yeah.
It's 10 o'clock, yeah.
The fire permits for the campers though, is that beachfront or back in the camping area?
Back in the camping area.
Okay.
But it can't be on the grass because of CRMC,
Right,
so it has to be on the gravel.
right.
So what hours does Jim work?
He actually puts in a lot more time than he's ever paid. He takes it personally because he's been there a while, since I've been there, a long time, and he's just a very dedicated manager. He always stopping in there, because some days he will go to the YMCA, but he's always there at night. And there's always, the head lifeguard in charge, and he's always in contact, and he may be there at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then back at 2, and then back at 5 till 9 at night. He puts in a lot of hours.
We're very, very fortunate to have somebody like him with his connections and with regards to the lifeguards. We happen to pay very minimally compared to a lot of the neighboring communities and so forth, but he teaches the classes, he has the connections with the lifeguards and brings them along and so forth. We've been lucky so far, but I think we're going to be under a lot of pressure with some of the neighboring communities. I think Tiverton just went up to...
Yeah, they went up. And as we talked about, Middletown went up, and I'm sure Newport Beach is just way out of our range.
Did you see what Middletown was in the paper today?
Yes. you know, that is something I can bring forth to the committee.
I mean, I think
And,
$5 increase is a big increase in one day.
That's a lot of
That's
money.
huge.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a
We see a dollar
50%
to
increase for,
five.
for most of our people. You know?
I'm talking about getting into the beaches. Middletown.
No, I'm talking about the
Middletown.
pay, they were paying $15, I think, for, and, you know, we're paying a lot of these kids like $10, $9.60, $10.50, you
This
know?
is on WPRI.com, and it has Middletown's proposal to raise it by $5 during the day and also on the weekends, up by 5.
So
Middletown
that's
is a huge
25 on
business.
the weekends.
Middletown is a huge business up there, that's
And we're
second.
talking 50, no, they're saying, the article must be wrong then, online. It said it was gonna go to 25 during the week and 50 on the weekends.
Oh,
Wow.
That's what it says, go look it up, WPRI.com.
Yeah, I think they collect over $1 million a
Well,
year.
they figured by going up this much, the town administrator down there said they would generate another $300,000 in revenue.
If the people
And
don't.
that increase.
we'll see that. We'll see that because, as the beach that we run here, when we've done that before, we watched revenue drop and we had to change the numbers at the end of June, and that was like 12 years ago. You know, we definitely paid for that.
We can pay a little bit more, I think, now, though, but that's my opinion.
What's that?
We can pay a little bit more now. I think we could charge a little bit more.
Okay,
I'm not saying a lot, but a little bit more. I do.
okay.
You know, I mean, you look at when everything's going up, when movies are,
Yeah.
when movies are, when pizzas are, and everything else.
What we will
You have a
do,
carload coming down there.
what I will do is I'll bring this up to the committee. We'll put it on the agenda and then we'll discuss it amongst ourselves and then we'll vote on a number.
Get back to this perfect.
Right. How's that?
Good. One thing I think you might look at, what you pay people is varies greatly, even
That's right.
second-year people get.
Yep.
I don't know whether that's a concern to the town in terms of if somebody says, why are you paying that guy more than you're paying me, or, I think if
Well-
you standardize, just my suggestion,
Yep.
do whatever you want to do. If you standardize first year senior guard, first year junior guard, whatever it is, you have your pay ranges.
Mhm.
Girls and boys get paid the same whether they're in the same range, they both, and there's a lot of difference there between those. There are women who get more, you know, it's not uniform. And then for somebody who's an exceptional guard, you give them a bonus as opposed, in other words, don't pay them $13, $14 an hour, but give them a nice fat bonus at the end of the year. So anybody who excels at their job gets paid and compensated, but it's not part of the regular salary structure. I think you need to look at that.
So
Why,
there's-
what is the basis for that? Why do we do it that way? As opposed to pay people more if they're worth more to you?
I think that you could get somebody who was upset with management and sue the town, saying you're paying X, Y more than you're paying me. Why is that? She's a female, I'm a male, why is she getting more, why am I getting less? That's,
Well, and they can be
just look at
explained if
it.
they.
Just-
No, that's
look
fine,
at
that's
it.
fine.
I'm not saying,
We will look at that,
you know,
for sure. The other thing is like 4 years ago, we did have a female headlight guard, and she was paid quite a bit. And it's all in the performance and how long they've been there. Now, we have 2 people that are there now that I know we're gonna have to up their salaries because we're gonna lose them. But they've been there, 10 years. So, it's a tough thing, but I understand your point, is to,
if she's doing that great of a job, pay her a bonus, but make sure she's in the
Yeah, I understand
salary
your
range
point.
with everybody else. That's the way to, in my opinion, to look at it.
we will.
Okay. I think the price thing that we've talked about.
Yep.
Middletown just raised their prices. I'd like to come to you and talk to you about, doing something at night too. But
Okay,
that's for next year,
that's fine.
but I'll come. Jim said that if we had guards on duty at night, that we're creating a greater liability for the town than not having.
Because it's underneath the town and not the beach commission, the
Right.
insurance
And
policy.
the point was, when I said, well, why don't you think about opening at night? Because you have these lines of cars waiting in line to get into the
Yeah.
beach when you close down at 4 or 5. They're waiting for you to leave, and so they all come in.
So how about, if we did do that, and if you wouldn't be able to charge that daily rate,
No.
but you charge like a $5 minimum?
$7.50, whatever you
Yeah,
think it
okay.
is. I mean, if you have a choice of going to a movie theater with your kids and paying $20, $30, or $7.50 for a beautiful evening on the beach, boy.
I'd like to make a clarification there. You said that you checked on the liability, and the liability is, I think you're talking about the cost of the liability insurance, correct?
No, the general liability. Jim said that if we have somebody down there at night, a lifeguard or a guard or a gate attendant, that is creating a greater liability for the town than by having somebody there as opposed to not having somebody there.
Well, I think that's a subjective assessment. Who could say that that's not correct?
I asked the insurance agent.
And how can insurance agents answer that? They can tell you if the cost of liability is different, but they can't tell you whether we feel that there's more of a liability at night than there is during the day. How can somebody else answer that?
I'm looking for the email now, Craig. There was an email, the agent spoke with the underwriter for the policy, and the underwriter is the one that's characterizing the risk and what they're insuring against. And who was that email from? Did you forward it from?
What's the name, what's the company?
Did you
It's
forward
part
it to us, Tom?
of, the town belongs to the interlocal trust, which is a consortium of 39 cities in town.
So we have an agent
The
there.
insurance agent, I don't know who the insurance company is.
I was asking the question, why don't we open up the beach at night, tax the revenue for these people trying to come in? And the answer was, if we had to put guards down there or gate attendants at night, we're creating a greater liability. And my only point to you is that that's not true.
So, I want to make a point, if we do have somebody collecting money down there, right? You put a sign up and say, no lifeguards on duty,
Absolutely.
and the beach commission isn't liable for it. The minute we put a lifeguard on that, we are liable to protect them, like we are in Goose Wing. If we have the lifeguards on South Shore, and even though we don't have lifeguards in a certain section of Goose Wing, they still have to go down there. So I think what Jim is trying to say to you, if there's somebody there, then we have an obligation to save them. So if you're collecting money, and the only thing you're collecting money for is a parking lot, but not a safety issue, you see what I mean?
I'm
That,
not the expert, but I just want, when I heard that.
but you understand where I'm coming from?
I just found the-
Okay.
Yeah.
What's that?
I just found the email from the woman with Rhode Island Trust. Mind if I read it real quick? This was the email that Shannon Ruff emailed to Tom and Dunn. Tom, sorry I missed your call the other day. She spoke with Ken Fogarty, who's a loss prevention specialist with the Rhode Island Trust. I'll just get to the meat of it. As for the liability exposure, having a qualified lifeguard or town personnel on site at the beach to enforce safety measures is always helpful at preventing and deterring losses, but you have no obligation to do so. That being said, should something happen with the presence of town personnel on site, it does put the town in a greater position of responsibility in the event of a claim. If you intend to charge fees, that will dramatically increase your liability, and as a result, I would suggest in that case, you do make sure you have a qualified lifeguard on site during those hours to help prevent loss.
That's what I just said.
If the town,
Wait a minute. So how did you interpret that to say that Jimmy was wrong?
there's another statement here, further down, that if the town has ordinances regarding outdoor fires, those restrictions also apply to the beach. It should be enforced so a beachgoer would be held responsible if they were acting outside the allowances of the ordinances and a claim resulted. Further, signs indicating no fires on the beach, if that is your desire, should be posted only as a deterrent, not only as a deterrent, but also as additional protection for the town's liability. And there's some more commentary here about signage. okay, I hope that helps. In terms of your premium, we do not make a separate charge for beaches, so there's no premium impact regardless of how you choose to proceed. If we discover major hazards or concerns, we would provide those recommendations to you, and only in a rare case, if those recommendations were deemed critical but not implemented, would we look at restricting coverage or assessing a premium penalty.
We're not trying to create blame or fault here.
I know you have a lot of things that you hope to come to know about how the beach operates. And I know that you haven't been able to do that. But I think what you're doing here right now this evening is far outside the bounds of what it is that you as a budget committee are supposed to be doing. I don't think you're supposed to be making recommendations to the Beach Commission as to what they need to do to raise revenues. I think what you're supposed to be doing as a budget committee is looking at the budget that they've submitted to you and deeming whether it's appropriate or not appropriate. That's it. In terms of how they pay their salaries, when they're open, how long they're open, that's got nothing to do with what the budget committee is supposed to be doing.
That's your...
That's not my opinion. That is not my opinion. That is exactly what it is that you're supposed to be doing. So I think that this conversation is going a completely wrong direction. That's just my opinion. I direct that to the chair because I think that you are out of line with what it is you're supposed to be discussing here this evening. It's not on the agenda. This is not a beach commission meeting. This is a budget committee meeting where you're supposed to be analyzing the budget. If you have any questions that pertain to the budget, those are the questions that you're supposed to be asking. Not making recommendations about when they're supposed to be open, how long they are supposed to be open. That's why they're elected to the Beach Commission to make those decisions. I'm sorry, but I just felt like I had to say that. So.
I think that's something that the Beach Commission should have.
Absolutely.
It's just Joseph Mayotto at AOL.
This just came to us in the past.
I'll do it, Joe.
We do have the, what is it, to address?
Joseph Mayotto at AOL.
So having gone through the discussion topics, we can go to the budget.
Anyone is certainly welcome to attend any of the Beach Commission meetings and make suggestions, and they'll be taken as suggestions.
That's a perfect place to do it.
And this is why I wanted to have a conversation earlier. This is the wrong place for this conversation, but in order to get comfortable with your budget, Tommy and I disagreed on what's appropriate or inappropriate. But I can't approve a budget unless I understand what's in the budget and how it was derived. So that's, so. In any case, I'm recommending your budget at 147,150.
Can I ask some questions about your recommendation?
Sure.
You have some reductions here, and I was wondering what the basis of the reductions were.
Where are the reductions?
Well,
which one are you talking about?
Well, you reduced overtime salaries from 7,800 to 1,500.
You only used 1,500 last year. Your budget is, if you take the number of people and your pay rates, you are fully staffed, and it's as if you're paying 100%. If you staff the beach at 100% all posts for the 99 days, it does not come up to your request.
Yeah.
You added an item, additional salary training.
This is kind of like, again, communication. When Jim saw this, I sent him a copy, but what I thought was right, he said, no, you're really off on the salary again. He says we have one weekend where we train all 32 people. So I added 2,200, which is the cost of 22 people for 8 hours for the extra training for that first weekend. And that's how that number came about.
So is this something that you individually prepared, or is this something recommended by the committee?
It's something I do. In other words, when you tell me I have 32 workers, and I'm paying this amount of money, and they're gonna work these number of days, I do a model of it, and see what the number comes out to.
I mean, the whole budget committee recommended amounts, is this something that the committee votes on? I'm just wondering about the procedure.
We will vote on it tonight. We have to, because we're running out of
But you
time.
individually prepare it?
We have individual members that go to the fire department, go to the police department, meet with the chiefs, we go to school committee,
They're responsible for different areas.
and I was chosen for the beach commission this year.
Okay, no, I'm just wondering what the procedure is, because,
So I'm trying to see if the numbers are holding up.
yeah,
I'm saying here, you know, assuming you don't have any bad weather, the numbers don't come up to your 105, 800.
well, and we all understand that all this money, whatever profits are made at the end of the year, it all goes back to the town.
I understand.
So I think it's not that we're spending it. If we don't have it, we could run into trouble. If we don't have enough money to pay salaries, then we have to close the beach and we have zero revenue for that time period. So
That's not gonna happen.
it doesn't really matter in terms of the bottom line of what goes to the town, what's on there. Correct?
No. I mean-
It's not like the school department, if you have more teachers or whatever, and you're paying more money to them, the town has less money. In this case, if you don't have enough money to pay the salaries and you get to a point in the year and you don't have any more money, you can't have them go out there and then we have to close the beach and we get zero revenue. So if this number for salaries was 200,000, it wouldn't make any difference. We'd still only spend what we needed. And we try to keep the salaries all to the very bare minimum, which is going to be difficult with neighboring communities, not only going up with revenues, but they're going way up on salaries. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, they still have to have the available, number one, has to be accounted for based on the
Well,
budget
definitely
for
has
the
to be
year.
accounted for.
Based on the budget for the year.
That's right.
But why not get,
Please, let's not have a conversation at the
I'm
table.
sorry,
Let's answer the question. And it sounds to me as if the question was answered.
Okay,
That is, if Craig took 100% of the days times 100% of the people times 100% of the payment, he gets less than 105, right? He gets 99,200, period.
right.
So that's the maximum that would ever be paid.
And some of these
So there's no
questions,
reason to budget excess amounts well beyond what
What you actually need.
you were actually.
right, and a lot of this, if Jimmy were here, he would be able to better explain it than me as to what the request was. But I just wanted to understand, seeing the reductions here, just the reason of what the basis was. So on safety equipment, it went down from 3,000 to 2,000.
Safety equipment, because the only thing you're going to be buying is an AED system, and they're $1,700.
Okay,
So,
okay. But during this year,
Yeah.
we may need new safety equipment, like,
Surfboard or
a surfboard or the boat
ropes.
needs to be repaired. We're estimating it, but if we don't use it, it still flows back in, and I think that's what, we're trying to protect ourselves, so we don't have to come and go, oh, we need more money. We've ran it this way for quite a while, and it's worked out, and it's been a profit, as we know, and, that is something I wouldn't cut, to be honest with you. That's my recommendation to you.
Let's not cut it.
No, that's what it is.
How about utilities?
Utilities, it looks like what happened here is it got broken down.
Mhm.
So it was just utilities, and then you broke it down into 3 different categories?
Right,
And collectively, those categories represent a reduction, correct?
correct.
And was that on the basis of last year's expenditures?
was that, just your estimate?
I think that's what it was. I mean,
I don't have last year's numbers here in
here's the
front of me, so
point,
it's hard.
we have to talk, and we can't resolve these
Right,
problems.
you're right, you're right, you're right.
You know? And-
I'm just giving my recommendation too, as far as the parking lot fund. I don't know, have you driven down there lately, in the last 2 weeks?
Terrible.
So we need money for
We
that.
got 20,000 for that, easy.
But that's what I'm saying, how we do this is we keep it up. So if we need money at that end of the year, or something pops up where if we don't have to ask the town for, it's a security blanket.
That's another thing too, by the way, as far as the parking lot repairs, in the past on certain situations that we've had, where we've
Yes.
had storms, we've gotten estimates, and what we're paying for repairs to that parking lot are so minimal, because we have a local contractor that's been doing this, and it's almost like charity that he's doing, believe me, because when we get numbers that are like 2 and 3 times more,
Well, the last
not like
hurricane,
20% more, but
the last
literally
hurricane
2 and
was
3
proof.
times more. So everybody is always working and, working with the people in the town to keep the costs low and keep it a nice place for the people in the town to go to, and basically for the out-of-town people to be paying the expenses for it, and to keep it nice for the people in the town. Not to have a big commercial venture down there. We want to keep it the way it is. We don't want it to be commercialized. We don't want to have crowds and crowds of people down there. Frankly, the only reason that other out-of-town people can come is to pay the expenses for the lifeguards, for the safety of the residents.
Do you have porta johns?
Yes.
How many do you have?
We usually have 6, and there's 2 that are handicap. There's one handicap, but there's a building on the side that's a handicap too, that's a cement building.
So how many altogether?
So I would say there are 8.
Okay. I'm gonna restore the 12,000, and I'm gonna put the johns in there because they're about $100 a month.
Plus cleaning.
Plus-
There's a little more cost of that cleaning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. After the rental.
They get used extensively, a lot more than really
Yeah.
they should be. If somebody were there counting and adding up, we rent them all the time, and one restroom is supposed to be for 10 men, I believe, and we have hundreds, so.
Maybe we should
Again,
get
it's
some
just
more.
an example. Yeah, I mean,
There's another cost.
If, we really try to keep everything to the bare bones down there, and that's particularly reflected in the salaries, and fortunately Jim has been able to attract enough people, barely enough people to, it's always a struggle every year to get enough people that are willing to work for that. You can't get, some of the kids, all our kids go to school in Portsmouth, so they're on the island. That's a different world there. So the kids that are from Portsmouth, they're gonna wanna go to work at Middletown or Newport. It's hard to attract them to get enough people here. So it's a balancing act. And if it weren't for Jimmy, to be honest with you, I don't know where this beach would be. We certainly wouldn't be able to be turning as much money over to the town as we do, and having as nice of a place that we do have. What's this minor restorations reduction? From 1525 to 1,000?
If it's minor, why is that $1,500? It's.
What's a minor restoration?
Can you explain to me what minor restorations are?
Because something could
Keep
pop
in
up.
mind, we've never had a discussion of these items.
Right, so you're just reducing it?
So I'm just, if it's minor.
So if you don't know,
restorations,
then you don't know,
You
right?
don't know, you take.
Yeah,
a
you
little
don't know.
out. Right.
Yeah.
There's no explanation,
Okay,
we'll take a little out.
very good.
We get repairs, we're in a very hostile environment there, in terms of the atmosphere, and, you're trying to run a gator down there, and it's all salt water and so on and so forth. You've constantly got different repairs that you have to do.
That's correct.
And again, it's only if it's needed. If we don't need it, all the money gets turned back to the town.
That's why, you know, that's why if it's there, we don't have to ask for more
So
at a certain point.
So I'm putting another 100,000 into safety equipment and 3,000 for porta johns. It would normally fit under utilities.
So does that total back to the $12,000?
No. Let's see.
I thought you said you were going back to the 12,000.
Figure it out.
If I could just make a comment. In the 8 years I've been here, each commission budget, which consists of an operating budget and an allocation to the parking lot fund, they've never gone over their budget. The expenses have run, on average, anywhere from, it's increased, about 180,000. This year is 206 through May, or through April. I expect another $20,000 in the month of June. And that's why my revenue estimate is 220 for this year. So they've always returned at least $40,000 to $50,000 back to the town. They've never been over the budget. The budgets run about 135 to 140 some thousand a year. So, I mean, they do return, if they don't spend their budget, which they haven't done, they return the money to the town, and the $50,000, $60,000 goes back to the general fund. And their revenues this year is 206, and they still got the month of June after Memorial Day for the fiscal year. So, you know, and they're gonna have some expenses for that month. And the beach parking lot fund right now has $10,000 in it. The request from Pat at the time was $12,000 more. Craig and I went through the folder for the beach parking lot. It runs around $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 a year to prepare the beach. That's only done in May before Memorial Day. So, you know, they always return a profit. So to me, the only issue is revenues, and if you want to raise revenues. If it rains, you treat it like a company. You got gross profit. If your revenues are decreased, your salaries are going to decrease, and therefore your gross profit remains the same. So no matter what the weather is, if you don't have if you have bad weather all summer, it's going to be zero expenses and zero revenues. And if it's half the payroll, it's half the payroll and half the expenses. So it's just a prorated share. So, you know, if the weather's bad, revenues are decreasing, and payroll's going to decrease. So your gross profit, the amount of money you return back to the town, is going to be relatively the same. And that's how I look at it. To me, the issue really should be one of revenues. If you want to increase the revenues, or if you want to extend the hours of the lifeguards, increase revenues, whatever that rationale is to do that. But the beach has never gone over their budget, never, in the 8 years I've been here. And if they don't go over, they just return it to the general fund. That's just...
Well, here's what I've done. I've restored the 12. I've restored the 3,000. And I end up with 152, 150.
So where are the remaining reductions then?
Building repair, minor restorations, repair tables.
So these other reductions,
As it stands, you're getting roughly 7,000 less than your request.
There's only one question here, the engineering draft, okay?
Yeah.
You got it at 2 and it's down to 1,000. Now, for us, we have a 10-year permit.
No, it's 2,000. It's what you
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's a previous one.
Oh, that was, oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry.
When's the permit come up for renew, Bill?
It's coming up in 2 years. It's a 10-year permit for CRMC. And every year we have to have it, you know, the topo done and, you know, to get it back to that
Donnie takes.
3.8. Yeah.
Which, that's another case.
Right.
That's $5,000 to $10,000 worth of work that
That's been
commission's
doing-
getting for $2,000.
You know, and here we are, you know, we're fighting over $7,000.
Well, and now with that, this $7,000 reduction, all it's doing is causing hard feelings on the part of the volunteer beach commission, and it's not gonna save the town one penny. Not one penny. You're not saving money, you're pretending to, but you're not saving any money.
If we don't spend, it goes back in.
Right, can I ask you guys, I'd like to request that you raise your fees. That's
You
all.
can make
That's
a
all.
suggestion.
No, I'm requesting, okay, that you raise your fees.
I will bring that
Just
up at the
based
next
on
beach
not just
commission
beaches,
meeting.
but movie
I will do
theaters
that.
and everything else, that's all.
Yep, I will do that.
Besides that, I'm fine with this.
I'd like to, yeah, I was gonna say, why don't we use,
I appreciate Craig going through the whole thing.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, we have to understand.
We're certainly open for suggestions, we have to bring it
You
to our
know,
board.
you're a revenue stream for the town, we know that, okay, you're it. And we just need to understand exactly how it influences.
Okay,
It's,
I think that's
it's
a good
similar philosophy to what we're, I think, shortly here going to be using when it comes to the school. You know, we're going to be considering the school's request with sort of the tacit agreement that they're going to put a cap on their surplus and compare year to year. They're going to do certain things, and so to me, I get real concerned about. I think there's something in the salaries here that to draw down, to recommend less than what's been requested is a little dangerous, because Jimmy may have to have that overtime budget because of how he assigns different guards to the beach at different times, because of levels of experience. You don't want all your junior guards on.
You're exactly right, and there's one other factor, by the way. I just remembered, Jimmy brought this up at the meeting. At the end of the year, a lot of the schools now, a lot of these kids, if they're in sports and so forth, a lot of these kids have to go back early. So in order to keep the beach fully staffed, then he has to run into the overtime more often now.
To keep his most senior.
So a lot of the kids that he has now are involved in athletics at their colleges, and they go back up to a month early.
Right, right.
And so the beach would be short-staffed, and that, I think that's his reason that he had more in it. But again, I mean, I would like to make a request that, that the budget committee recommend the amount that we requested. Because again, it is not gonna save the town a penny. All it's doing is causing hard feelings, and it's not gonna accomplish anything. We're gonna still turn over, regardless of how we feel or don't feel about it, we're still gonna turn over the entire amount of what we profit at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And we're making money for the town.
Right, right.
And really, the only goal is to have these people pay for the town to have a nice place to go to, the town resident. It's a bonus
Right.
that the town makes a profit.
I think there's an aspect from our committee that we want to make sure where we have opportunities for revenue streams, we want to make sure we're trying to look at it to see that we're getting the most out of it. But I agree with you too. I mean, on a $200,000 budget, Bill, you've undergone quite a bit of scrutiny. And I think that's very much appreciated. And under the circumstances, I think there's an appreciation too for, with the turnover in your leadership in the committee, and there's some flex. I think we can use a similar philosophy to, with the school, it's a different scenario, but with your commission to say, please consider on the revenue side, looking at what can you do with the beach fees to try to squeeze a little bit more gross revenue out of what your bottom line expenses are.
I think going forward, now that, you guys have kind of settled down, and Griff is no longer on the committee, and, you've got a new head of the commission, I think, later next year, or later this year, we can sit down and
I think that'd be a good
have
idea.
an
I think
actual
that'd be a good
discussion
idea.
about it.
I'll tell you what, if you.
And we 5 people, by the way, are reasonably new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's not to say that I'm certainly not gonna sit here and say that I think anything was done wrong over the past few years, past 20 years, 30 years, because I think they've done a fantastic job over the years of maintaining that beach and keeping it what it is.
I've been there 20.
Bill, if you'll consider the revenue.
I'm good. But I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to learn. In suggestions.
I'm recommending the full budget.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Could you move that?
I'll move that we
$159,975.
Second.
And is there a second?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You have, can I just make a suggestion?
Those in favor?
Aye.
You have to recommend each individual request.
Do we have to go each line item in the budget over again?
143 for the operating budget and 12 for the parking lot. Recommends 159,000.
Okay, so,
So 143, 475.
so
Move.
Okay, operating is 143, 475.
Second. George?
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
I recommend
Capital.
12,000 from beach repair capital.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
And what about the $4,500 charge?
The capital charge to operations,
That comes out of the 143.
that's part of the 143, right?
Done. Do the library in 1 minute.
We can get back to the fire permits now.
Okay, on that,
On the library,
the library.
there is no such thing as overtime. It's really, turns out to be vacation pay from sick pay. And the only issue is, and I will take it up with council, is that the library board makes the decision. The trust keeps the building going, the town
Right.
funds the operations.
Correct.
But this private board recommends the salaries and the benefits to the employees, which the town pays without any input. So I would suggest council
54, 153,
153,900
153.9.
was their request, and
Yes.
we would, I would move approval, subject to yours.
Second.
Second, all those in favor of the library budget?
Aye.
Opposed? No. We now are at the school element, and we had earlier approved the town share of $6,517,006, which was exactly the amount that was requested, right, Tom?
Yes.
Okay. So therefore, we should have all of the requests either approved, modified, increased, or decreased for the entire request package.
I'm sorry, did we actually move and vote on the school?
No, not yet.
We haven't actually moved and voted on the
Did
school.
we do that?
budget.
Hold on.
No.
We haven't done that yet.
We did,
We talked about it.
No, we talked about it,
We
but we
didn't
didn't
formally
do
move to propose the budget.
Yeah, we didn't actually vote on that.
okay, if we didn't, I thought we did.
Well,
I thought we did.
Can I make a motion that we
If
pay
we
the town
didn't,
share $6,517,006? Is that what
A
it is?
second, then.
Is that what we
I
have to
will
do?
second that.
The motion normally is done, you make a motion to grant the request of the school, which is $6,934,000 and change, which is $6,939,894.
Okay,
And then in the warrant, it lists what the town portion is in parentheses.
okay. So I'll make the motion to request,
Okay.
to accept the requested school budget of $6,939,894.
Correct.
And the town's portion is 6,517,006.
Yes.
Correct.
And that's a second, George.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That passes, and that therefore concludes all of the requests that we have been addressing. Now, you all have got a copy of the 5-year capital plan, and if you don't, I've got an extra one.
Let's see.
and George. And I think that we had seen this at a couple of meetings before this, but we have not actually voted on it. This is prepared primarily by Tom and the council. Is that fair, Tom?
That's fair.
And the annual contribution, as you would see at the bottom, has been 100,000 for 16, and it's projected to be the same for 17, which is covering the expenses listed above. And this is a requirement of our ordinance to prepare this. Takes care of really everything except the school. School is not a part of this capital.
That's correct.
But the school did agree. I guess we lost Tom partway here, but the school did agree to focus on the capital improvements within their budget as well.
I'd like to vote to approve this.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion, Tom? Do you have any
No, it's the
positive, negative?
the appropriation was $100,000, and it fits into this capital plan over a 5-year basis. Nothing major has changed that I'm aware of.
Any other discussion? Anybody in the,
The balance forward that we're building up, what does that go into the unrestricted surplus for the town, or are we going to try to build up a capital
No,
budget?
that does not go back as unrestricted, it's in the capital fund.
Stays in the capital fund.
Standalone capital fund.
So we can try to build that up a little bit then, if we can carry that balance.
all right, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That's number 5 on the agenda. Three-year income plan is basically the income for 17, and then projected forward at about 2%, right, Tom?
Well, it's depending on the line items. I have one here, I don't know if you've seen one I have or not. Each line item is a different percentage based on different parameters.
Which shows a projected surplus of about 100,000 a year, assuming the levy would stay at
The levy is at 2% basically.
2%, yeah.
And the
at
school,
2%.
the school appropriation is increased at 2%.
And everything else is about 1.5. And a couple.
Healthcare, I put it, I think it's 3%.
Right. So that would be included in the report.
If you'd like it to.
We did, that's fine. We're going to put it in. Have a look there, guys.
assumptions
Yeah,
don't show the
remove
assumptions.
the assumptions and project the revenue and expenses.
But is this the fiscal year 16 and fiscal year 17 numbers, let's say on property tax, based on actual or based on the 2% increase projection?
15, 16 was actual, 15, 17 is what I projected
What
for our, what our levy to be.
we've got here.
Okay. But the levy is,
The levy that I am working with is 11,628,000.
right, which is, I'm trying to remember what mill rate we were talking about for that. That's in the 5.67.
567.
That's $5.67.
That's
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
right here.
Yep. But that, but the reality is that represents like a 3.8% increase, right? On the
Correct.
levy.
That's 3.93% over last year's levy.
So we're right up against it on the cap.
That's the highest we can go without being over the cap.
Right, that's what we discussed earlier this week.
Which is, so we've got a motion to approve this 3-year forecast. Seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. You still need a copy, Tom?
It's okay, I'll have to clean it up. I'll give it to you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
I'll send it to everybody.
Thank you, Tom.
Budget committee report, I have a copy for each of you, which has been revised. There's a few details that are held open because of tonight's meeting, but this is basically what I have revised that introductory letter. I think that it's a fairly extensive document, and what I think we should do is tentatively approve it, subject to any information that you may read and discover and inform me of tomorrow, so we can push it along to the printer.
So you're gonna vote on this tomorrow? I won't
We
be
have-
here. I'm not gonna be here tomorrow, it's already, I won't be here,
You're off to Houston.
yes. So I won't be here, but,
Why don't you take it on the plane?
I'll take it on the plane and I will email you. Or call
Okay,
you.
fair enough.
That I will do.
And we can vote on it tomorrow.
Do you have an extra copy of that,
Yeah, you want one?
please?
There you go. You'll see that there are a few gaps that need to be plugged, but it's in pretty good shape, I think. We're also having a public hearing on the recommended budget tomorrow at 7 p.m. in the school. So there'll be an opportunity for people to raise questions at that time. And we'll have a final vote on the budget report and the final budget tomorrow.
When is the next public hearing, the second public hearing?
The second public hearing will be at a time that between now and May 17th.
Okay.
And what we'd like to do, this report will be in the mail 10 days before the 17th, so on the 7th, it's going in the mail. So it'll be sometime in that period. And I haven't figured out what's a good day. If you've got an idea, we'd like to hear it.
I'm just concerned,
There-
would people have it by the 10th?
No,
No, they won't have it
goes into the mail on the 10th.
It's only a week before did you say 10 days or 7 days before?
That's 10 days before.
Goes to the mail on the 10th.
Well,
The 7th.
10
Meeting's on the
goes in,
17th.
whatever the 10-day
Yeah, yeah.
date is.
So it goes in on the 7th.
I think that's a Saturday.
Yeah, it's the
The
7th.
7th.
Can I ask you a question here?
Yeah,
So if you approve this tomorrow night, it's gonna go to the printers
the printer gets it tomorrow as well.
tomorrow, or,
Friday.
so it gets it Friday, it gets it the 29th.
Friday morning.
He gets it the 29th, and he's got all next week and returns it to go in the mail, maybe the 6th?
He gets it on the 29th,
Yeah,
which is Friday.
yeah, then he'd have a whole week to get it to us. So go, if you could go in the mail that
Well,
following Friday, which is the 6th,
He runs it, George.
I know, but the 6th,
Then it goes to the mailing
I
service.
know.
And then it gets processed and goes into the mail, which is May 7th. No later than May 7th,
No later than.
right?
So there's a good chance that they could have it on the 10th to the 12th.
On the 10th of May, yeah, 7, 8, 9, yeah, right. Between 10 and 12 that week. That week would be the
My
week
my
of,
personal opinion is I would rather err on the side of caution that
Yeah.
people receive it. So
Yes.
I would go for the Thursday the 12th, but that's just my opinion.
I think it has to be,
sounds like a good date.
you gotta check that, I think it has to be 7 days prior to the financial town meeting.
We have two.
I know the second one has to be 7 days prior to the financial
So
town.
our thing only says one.
We
only have to have
We
one.
have only one.
We don't have to have two. This is the one tomorrow night.
This one is,
Tomorrow night's is the one, the legal one.
right,
My only question, Bob, on this,
this one is just a gratuitous second one.
You guys forgot which one, the 12th.
this last page on your bike committee report, are you still gonna work on that?
Oh, yeah,
Because it doesn't tie out to any numbers.
right.
Okay.
I said there were a few pages that need support. George,
Yep, that's it.
the meeting tomorrow will satisfy the legal requirement.
Correct.
The meeting between the mailing of the report
Right.
and the town meeting on the 17th is an opportunity for people to ask questions,
Right.
to see what
Right.
is in the report. If they have concerns about anything, it's an opportunity for people to at least be heard, and maybe not to be heard, but also to have some explanation.
Right.
And to maybe not be embarrassed in front of the 300 people. They've got a question they'd like to ask, fine. But I would suggest that is the 12th of Thursday.
12th's a Thursday.
So let me try that as a possibility. And I don't know any reason why it wouldn't be a good day, but maybe the Tuesday, maybe the 10th might be another.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
10th to the 12th, either one.
10th or 12th.
We can decide that
Yeah,
tomorrow or.
yeah.
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 And the report will be on the web as well, on the 7th, or probably 8, 9, probably the 9th. Okay.
I have a question, how is this process for this PCR going to be handled? Like if we see things in the cover letter or in the PCR that we want to make edits on, how do we handle that? Because we can't get into a
Let
discussion
me
on
know.
it. Okay. Like one question I have, just looking at this.
Tomorrow, we
Okay.
can deal with it tomorrow.
Like, I,
No, the school segment is really theirs.
Yeah, there's something I don't exactly agree with how they prepared their Appendix A. How it presents the numbers is not, I don't know if you've seen it, but
Yeah.
it just, it's relatively new. I would encourage you to take a look at how Appendix A is prepared, because it talks about how they manage their surplus, and
Well, it should tie in with whatever agreement is in hand. Yeah, Yeah,
take a look at
I
it.
think it ties in with what we set down, and like the letter, the email that Tom sent us. That, and I think John McAfee wrote what's in there.
Appendix A makes it sound like the accumulated surplus for the school is $23,000, and that's
Not true.
not true.
But nowhere in there, you don't see it in their budget where the narrative tells you what they're gonna do with the money.
Right.
But there's nowhere on a line item that says, what they're gonna do. That's
So it's not, that's
Yeah,
what I
so
mean, it's not
I think
supported by
it's-
what their budget
I
is.
understand, and I agree with you, but I think it's a plus that we even have the
Yeah.
acknowledgement.
I agree.
You know?
It's,
you take one step at a time.
yes.
Okay, is there a motion for any other business before the meeting? Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Motion for adjourn, so moved. Second, all in favor?
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you all.